Karen looked right at him, my little brother struggling on crutches, and kept driving like he wasn't even there. The sound of him hitting the pavement still haunts me. And the worst part? She smirked as she drove off. My brother hasn't smiled the same since the accident. Before it happened, he was the kind of kid who made everyone laugh without trying. He'd use his crutches like drumsticks, tapping out beats on everything from countertops to car hoods. Always trying to keep the mood light, like his injury wasn't slowing him down, but I saw the pain in his eyes when no one was looking. We used to walk to the little park near our neighborhood every Saturday morning. It wasn't anything fancy, just a path around a pond and a couple of benches. But after his surgery, it became more than just a walk. It was a sign that he was healing, that he was fighting to get back some kind of normal. That morning felt good. It was sunny, crisp, the kind of weather that made you forget how heavy life had been lately. He told me he wanted to try making it to the park and back without stopping to rest. I asked if he was sure. He just looked at me with that determined little grin. "I'm tired of feeling broken," he said. So we went. We took the side path, less traffic, a little safer for someone on crutches. I carried his water bottle just in case, and we laughed about how slow we were moving. A squirrel ran across the sidewalk and made him jump. He almost lost his balance, and we both cracked up like it was the funniest thing in the world. It felt good to laugh again. The houses on that street are mostly quiet. Retired couples, neat lawns, trimmed hedges. But one house always made us walk faster. The corner lot with the woman who never waved, never smiled, and always stared from behind her blinds. Her name was Karen. Of course it was. She didn't like kids walking too close to her grass. She didn't like people parking near her mailbox. One time she came outside to yell at someone for riding a bike past her driveway too fast. We'd learned to just keep our heads down when we passed. That morning, her garage was open and her SUV was running. My brother slowed a little, adjusting his grip on his crutches. We were almost past her driveway when I heard the engine rev. She was in the driver's seat, sunglasses on, hair pulled back tight like she was headed to war. She looked right at us. No blink, no wave. I thought she was going to wait. She didn't. She pulled out fast. I mean fast. Like we weren't even there. Like my brother's crutches weren't visible. Like his limp didn't matter. He tried to move. I reached for him. But it happened too fast. The front of her car clipped his side, and he went down, hard. The sound of crutches hitting pavement, the thud of his body on the curb. I dropped everything. He wasn't screaming. That scared me more than anything. He just laid there, curled up, like the wind had been knocked out of him. I was shouting before I realized it, asking if he was okay, asking him to talk to me, asking him to just say something. Karen didn't stop. She didn't even look back. Her brake lights never flashed. She just rolled down the street like nothing happened, like she hadn't just hit a disabled kid who was trying to enjoy one peaceful walk. I wanted to run after her. I wanted to scream until the entire block heard me. But my brother needed me more. I knelt beside him, my hands shaking. He finally groaned, then winced as he tried to sit up. His elbow was scraped. His crutches had been flung a few feet away. He looked defeated. "I'm fine," he muttered. But he wasn't. Not physically. Not emotionally. Something had cracked, not just bone, but spirit. He didn't want to go to the hospital. He didn't want to call Mom. He just wanted to go home. That's when I realized this wasn't just about a reckless neighbor. It was about the world treating him like he was invisible, like he didn't matter, like he wasn't even worth slowing down for. And that broke me, because my brother had already lost so much, his mobility, his confidence, his freedom. And now some cold-hearted woman decided she couldn't even spare 2 seconds to let him pass safely? That walk was supposed to be a win, a step forward. Instead, it turned into another reason for him to retreat, to give up. But I wasn't letting that happen. Not this time. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the sound of crutches skidding across concrete. Every time I blinked, I saw the look on my brother's face. Shock, pain, and something worse. Shame. He kept saying, "It's fine. I'm okay." But I knew he wasn't. When someone gets hit and still blames themselves for being in the way, something deeper is broken. And Karen? She just drove off like she hadn't shattered anything at all. I couldn't let it go. The next morning, I asked my brother again if he wanted to report it. He shook his head. Quiet. Withdrawn. People like her always get away with it, he said. He was 12. 12. And already convinced that some people were above consequence. That lit something in me, so I went to her house. I didn't tell anyone. I just marched over there, heart pounding, fists clenched. Her SUV was parked in the driveway like it hadn't committed a hit and run less than 24 hours ago. Not a scratch on it. She'd probably wiped it down, scrubbed off every trace of guilt. Knocked hard. No answer. Knocked again. Finally, the door creaked open. There she was, Karen in her full glory. Arms crossed, jaw tight, that same smug, polished look, like she was already judging me before I said a word. I asked if we could talk. She didn't even bother hiding her eye roll. I'm very busy. What is it? You hit my brother yesterday. Silence. I was there. You looked right at him and drove. You clipped his crutch and knocked him down. You didn't even stop. She blinked slowly. Is he hurt? Does it matter? I said. You left him. On the ground, her lips twitched. Not concern, amusement. I don't think that's what happened, she said. I looked in my mirrors. No one was behind me. He was in front of your driveway. I didn't see anyone. She said it like that made it true. Like her. Sight was the ultimate judge of reality. I took a step forward. You looked him in the eye, Karen. You knew exactly what you were doing. She shrugged. Kids shouldn't be walking in the middle of the street anyway. We weren't in the street. It's a private neighborhood. I was in my rights. There it was. Her rights. The HOA-style entitlement. The belief that rules only apply when they benefit her. That other people's kids are just obstacles. I wanted to scream. Instead, I told her we had security cameras on that stretch of the sidewalk. Her expression didn't change, but I saw a flicker. Not fear. Calculation. Then she said the most Karen thing she possibly could. Do what you have to do. She closed the door in my face. Not sorry. Not even pretending to be. Just daring me to try. And the worst part? I didn't know if she'd face consequences. Because people like her usually don't. But I had one thing she didn't expect. My brother's story, and I was going to make sure the neighborhood knew what happened. By that afternoon, I posted on the community board app. Nothing aggressive, just facts. I described what happened. The time, the location, the vehicle. I said my brother was recovering from surgery, that he was hit and left on the sidewalk, that the driver didn't even stop. I didn't name her, but I didn't have to. Within hours, neighbors were commenting. Someone said they saw the SUV speeding through the corner around that time. Another said they had a camera facing the street. Someone else posted a photo from the previous week, Karen yelling at a kid for riding a scooter, and then came the DMs, stories, complaints. Small things people never reported, because it was easier to just avoid her. One neighbor said she'd been nearly clipped too while walking her dog. Another said Karen once called the HOA to complain about too many kids walking near her mailbox. It wasn't just a mistake, it was a pattern. The footage came in that evening. A blurry but clear enough angle from a Ring doorbell. You could see us on the sidewalk. My brother moving slowly. Karen's car pulling out fast. No pause. No brake lights. Just impact. I showed it to my brother. He didn't say anything at first. Then he said, "So it really wasn't my fault." That broke me again. We took the footage to the HOA the next day. They sat stiff and uncomfortable as I played it back. One of them, the treasurer, I think, shook his head and said, "That could have been really bad." I said, "It was bad." They said they'd look into it. I asked what that meant. Look into it how? She lives 3 houses from the clubhouse. Are you telling me no one here has seen her act like this before? They promised a formal warning would be issued. A warning. I told them that wasn't enough. That my brother was scared to walk outside. That she never even apologized. That she was a danger. They said they'd take it under advisement. That night, we stayed in. My brother didn't want to go for a walk. He barely looked out the window. And I couldn't stop thinking about the look on Karen's face when she said she didn't see anyone. Because she did see him, and she still drove forward. That's not an accident, that's a choice. A warning? That was their solution? A formal warning. My brother had bruises on his ribs, scrapes down his elbow, and nightmares that made him jolt awake crying. And she got a politely worded letter slipped into her mailbox? I'd never felt that kind of rage before. The quiet kind that simmers under your skin. The kind that doesn't explode, but calculates. Because I knew Karen. A warning meant nothing to her. She thrived on being untouchable. She thought the neighborhood belonged to her. That anyone who didn't fall in line deserved to be punished. Well, not anymore. I started documenting everything. Every story from neighbors. Every past complaint. I asked around, privately, respectfully. I found out she'd threatened to call child services on a single mom because her son left a skateboard near the sidewalk. Another neighbor said Karen once called the cops because a teenager wore a hoodie and looked suspicious, but no one had ever pushed back. I wasn't scared of her, not after what she did to my brother. The HOA tried to brush me off again when I asked for a community meeting. It's not protocol, they said. Too disruptive. But then I reminded them this wasn't about protocol. It was about safety. If they weren't going to protect the kids in this neighborhood, I'd bring it to someone who would. So I called a local reporter. I didn't plan to, but I'd been holding on to that ring footage, and something in me snapped when my brother flinched just walking past a parked car. I sat on the edge of my bed and asked myself, what kind of world are we building if people like her keep getting away with it? The reporter called me back within hours. She came over that weekend. She met my brother. She asked questions gently. She saw the footage. She listened to the neighbors who were suddenly no longer afraid to speak up. The story aired. 2 days later, local boy on crutches. Struck by driver who refused to stop. Neighborhood demands accountability. The reaction was instant. The HOA inbox exploded. Karen's house became a fortress. Shutters drawn, mailbox taped shut, her SUV nowhere in sight. I wasn't trying to go viral. I wasn't out for revenge. But justice? Yeah, I wanted that. Not. Long after, a formal notice was posted on the HOA's website. Karen's driving privileges in the community were suspended. Residents voted to ban her from holding any leadership or committee positions permanently. She was fined for reckless behavior. And best of all, a formal restraining order was requested. She could no longer approach within 100 feet of my brother. That was the first time I saw him smile in days. He watched the news segment on his phone 3 times. I asked him if he wanted to talk about it. He just said, "Thanks for believing me." That crushed me, because deep down, I think a part of him was afraid I wouldn't. Afraid the world would, once again, look away. But not this time. A few days later, I got a knock at our door. Karen, not dressed for war this time. No sunglasses, no SUV running in the driveway. Just her, standing there, looking small. She didn't say sorry. Not really. She said, "I didn't expect this to go so far." I looked her dead in the eye and said, "You hit a disabled kid and drove off." She swallowed hard. "It wasn't intentional." "You saw him," I said. "You made a choice. You always do." She looked down. I didn't think anyone would make it public. There it was. Not guilt, fear of being seen. I didn't respond. I didn't invite her in. I didn't scream at her, either. I just stood there, letting the weight of her own actions settle in the silence. She turned and walked away without another word. My brother never asked what she said. He didn't need to know. He was already looking forward to his next walk, to the new pair of crutches he picked out with bright orange grips, to taking back his space in this neighborhood. And me? I realized something. You don't have to shout to fight back. Sometimes you just have to stand your ground long enough to let the truth rise above the noise. Karen tried to erase him. We made sure the whole neighborhood saw him, and from that day on, every time we walked past her house, we didn't speed up. We didn't lower our heads. We walked tall, because she didn't get away with it.